Welcome to F&I Today. I'm your host, Becky Chernick. Now, for many years, I have trained the benefits of the customer interview, meeting the customer at the salesperson's desk prior to the customer going into the F&I office for delivery. The benefit far outweighs the time it takes to meet the customer. It speeds the entire delivery process, and when you do it, it increases your profits by as much as $200 per car. By meeting the customer on their terms helps to build rapport. It takes the monkey off your back and ensures that the transaction is complete. It also helps you to ascertain the products that will bring the customer most value. And you want to sell products based on the customer needs, not yours. So when I meet with the customer for the first time at the salesperson's desk, I want the customer to know who I am, what my duties and responsibilities include, and I also want them to know how long the overall process will take. The idea is to stop the clock and take the guesswork out of it. So, hi Mr. Burns, my name is Becky Chernick. I'm the business manager. Congratulations, I understand that you're purchasing a new vehicle with us today, the silver Chevy Impala. I also understand that you will be financing this vehicle with us and taking your new vehicle home with you today. Now, my responsibility is to review the titling information for accuracy. I also want to take a moment to go over the buying numbers with you. Now, since you will be financing with us, I also want to take a moment or two and go over the customer statement with you so I can obtain a faster loan approval for you. Now, bear in mind, if the customer has a FICO score of 725 and greater, you simply state, go over the customer statement with you and answer any questions that you may have. This will take about 5 to 7 minutes. Do you mind if I join you? At this point, sit with the customer. If the desk provides you with an e-pencil worksheet, I would still want to go ahead and print out a purchase order before I meet with the customer and use the purchase order as a review copy. This will help you to stay on track and remind you of the questions that you will want to ask your customer. So, Mr. Burns, this is the correct spelling of your name and you will be the only buyer. This is your primary address and it matches your driver's license. Now your driver's license is up to date. Again, you are purchasing a 2018 silver Chevy Impala, which is a really nice car. I think it's probably one of my favorites. Now during your test drive, can you confirm that the vehicle has as much as 18 miles on it? I see that you're trading in a 2010 Ford SUV. It has 120,000 miles. Now did you buy this vehicle new or used? Now, if used, can you recall how many miles it had on it when you first bought it? Typically, do you trade your vehicle in at the dealership or will you sell the vehicle outright? So I imagine resale value is important to you, isn't it? You generally put as many as 15 to 20,000 miles on the vehicle per year. Now, are your driving habits going to remain the same? Now, if my used car manager would ask, where do you keep the service records on this trade-in? Will you be coming into our dealership for your regular maintenance? Great. Well, I certainly look forward to seeing you when you're here. I also see that you have no payoff on your trade-in. Is that correct? Do you happen to have your trade title with you today? And is that trade title in your name only? Did you contact your insurance agent and do you have full coverage insurance? Do you happen to know what your deductible is? So in the past 10 years, have you ever had to use your insurance for anything major? Well, that's great. I certainly like to hear that. It's always best to have that peace of mind. Pointing to the numbers, these are the numbers that you've agreed to. Here is your down payment of $1,000. Now, how will you be taking care of that down payment? Check, debit card, or credit card? Now, be careful with this one. Not every dealer accepts credit cards or may have a limit policy in place. So is this the unpaid balance? And oh, by the way, did you want to consider putting additional monies down so that you wouldn't be financing the taxes and tag fees? So I'll be going over more personal information. Now we can do that here if you prefer, or we can do that in the privacy of another office. So most likely the customer will be fine staying at the salesperson's desk, but use your discretion. You will be going over the customer statement and, in other words, the credit application with the customer, validating that the information for accuracy. Reviewing the customer statement is a very important part of the process and will provide you with the information necessary to obtain that bank approval. So Mr. Burns, the contract will be in your name only. Is that correct? This is your primary address. where the payment book will be mailed. Speaking of which, will the vehicle be parked out front of your home or will it be garage kept? I see that you are renting. Is that correct? And your payment is this? Is that being shared with anyone? You have lived at your residence for over 6 years. I see that you are a school teacher and would have been and you have been employed for over 13 years. So if in the event the bank wanted to verify your employment, is this the correct number? And is there anyone in particular that they need to speak with? Do you happen to make additional income? Is there any earned income you didn't include that you would like to? I see you bank with SunTrust. Is there anyone in particular that you deal with at SunTrust Bank? Now, if the customer has a slow pay history, I would make it a point to find out what happened, what's changed, and why it won't happen again. Take out that credit bureau and go over some of the slow pay history in detail with the customer. Now, this is perfectly legal, and you aren't giving the customer a copy of the credit bureau. And please bear in mind, you are not a credit counselor either. But don't be too brass about their credit. Don't beat up the customer, but go over the payback history, the questions the bank will likely ask you about, such as why the customer was 90 days late on a car payment or house payment or whatever. Remember to take notes, and lots of them. And depending on how rough this credit is, I often ask that the customer fill out a credit explanation form in their own handwriting. I still like to use this credit explanation form today. It's often better to share the customer stories with the bank in their own handwriting, in their own words. It tells the bank, I've done my homework. The bank seldom receives these credit explanations today, and when they do, they realize that you have taken the extra effort to obtain the real story. You didn't make it up. The added benefits to the credit explanation form, it really helps to justify the customer's rate when needed, especially if this contract is approved at a higher interest rate. After I review the customer statement and payback history with the customer, I also make it a point to review the payment options and terms to assure we have a true meeting of the minds. I don't want anything to get in the way of an effective menu presentation. I want to keep my credibility intact at all costs. Now, once I complete the interview, I tell the customer that I have everything I need to get the paperwork started, prepare options, and then I set a time expectation to make sure that they understand, I will have them back in my office in about 10 to 15 minutes for delivery, and they will likely be in their new vehicle driving home within 45 minutes. I ask if they have any additional questions, and then often I offer them a cup of coffee, water while they're waiting. The sales associate comes back and finalizes this transaction. They'll go over the owner's manual, or even perhaps this is a great time for the service walk. There should be no idle time for the customer. The salesperson is back and taking care of the rest of the paperwork. And during the interview, if you happen to uncover any missing documentation, such as rebates, still need to be validated, or payoff information needs to be confirmed, this would be a great time to get your ducks in a row, and that way you're not spinning wheels and slowing down this F&I process. And when the customer goes into the F&I office for delivery, there's no guesswork. They understand expectations, and this will also help to reduce their sales resistance to your presentation. The interview is essential to assuring paperwork is straight and that you will have no surprises that will kill your presentation. It also helps you to train your entire staff, and they will come to realize that that customer will not get into that F&I office unless the deal's straight and ready to go. Look, every time you let up on that interview and take shortcuts, you invite grief, deals that aren't straight, customers that aren't closed. And when that happens, it takes the wins out of your sales. Take the time to meet the customer on their terms at the salesperson's desk. Get to know them a bit. A 5 to 7 minute review is all that is needed. And if you log every customer TO, I bet you'll come to realize that it will pay off in dividends, at least a $200 to $300 difference in your overall PVR. Thank you for joining me on F&I Today. Be sure to come back next week right here on the CBT Automotive Network for our next edition of F&I Today. Also, feel free to contact me regarding my consulting services. My specialty is helping auto dealers achieve high levels of performance and profits by improving internal processes that begin the moment the customer touches down on the dealership website and ends with finalizing in-person transactions in F&I. Also, for our CBT automotive dealers, contact me about my complimentary single roof top online analysis and find out what's preventing you from taking the lead position.